Hey, you. You're finally awake.
Hello and welcome back to the channel. Now, we all know NES games are hard. It developed its own little title called NES Hard or NES Difficult. And let's be honest, those early video games were there to try and keep us in our seat for as long as we can. Now, whilst I don't want to look at the levels themselves, that may be a video for another day, today I want to look at 10 of the hardest NES bosses. These are ones that I've experienced, so I'm going to make a big caveat here. There are probably ones I've missed off this list. Here is going to be the ones we've all heard of before, okay? Because I played the games which everyone's heard of before, because I'm trying to do this for the podcast. Now, I want you to let me know in the comments if you think I've got this list right, and I guarantee there'll be people who'll be saying, no, you didn't do this one, no, you didn't do this boss, no, you didn't do this game. That's fine, let me know, because at some point I will be playing these games, and then we can revisit this list once in the future. So you've got to tell me in the comments, what do you think is the hardest boss I need to play? Not the hardest game, the hardest boss of all time. We'll try and do one per game, although it's not necessarily going to be one per franchise, but as I said, you let me know. And if you do like this video, please leave a like and comment, it really helps the channel grow, and we're on our way to 7,000 subscribers. If you want to hear more of me, Retro Wars is a weekly podcast, and this week it's going to be Final Fight Streetwise for the PlayStation 2. And we've also got a $1 a month Patreon, where you can find the link in the description below. As I said, let me know in the comments what you think is the hardest NES boss, and whether you think I'm just being a big baby. And now let's get into it. At number 10, Bucky O'Hare, the Toad Escape Ship. Yeah, probably this is going to be the only boss on here which everyone's probably not going to go, oh, okay, I understand. The others, you probably know them all, and everyone's said them a million times, but that's fine. Maybe not this one, though. So this is near towards the end of the game. You are on a little platform that can go around the ship, where this big mothership is basically doing its best to get away, and you need to destroy all of its armaments. So the battle begins on the right-hand side, where the toad soldiers are jumping at you to try and basically save themselves, and you're like, no, early grave, bye-bye, get out of my life. And then once you've decided to pass them, it is the turrets, where they'll constantly be firing balls of death at you, while you're just trying to dodge. And then you on the left-hand side, you've got another turret with a laser beam. And finally, when you go underneath the ship, the turrets are back again from the second phase. All the while, there is spikes underneath because, of course, the whole place is littered with spikes. Who thought that was a good design choice when they were making this bloody level? The whole point of this level is that whilst it's going round, you have to destroy every single little thing you can. So for example, for when the toads are jumping out, you need to destroy little holes that they're popping out of. For the turrets, well, it's pretty simple, destroy the turrets. And for the laser, we'll destroy the laser and the final turret. Once you've done that, then you've done the boss. The one thing I have a problem with this is whilst it's a pain in the arse, it does get easier the longer it goes on. But you constantly have to do loop upon loop upon loop. So, for example, if you've only got the last turret and the laser on the left-hand side to do, and you've done everything else, and you suddenly go, right, we've done this phase, and it goes around all the way again until you can get to that part of the fight. It's not like you're on the right-hand side of the screen, you can suddenly fire the laser. No, you have to wait until the screen goes the whole way round. So it can be quite tedious, and I don't like that, because the tension builds, and that's also more time spent than when I absolutely fail and cry to my mum. At number 9, it's Batman and the Joker. Yes, we all probably know this is going to be in here because god damn it's so cool. But when you start this boss, the first thing I'm thinking of, hang on, when did the Joker get so swole? He's massive! He's bigger than Batman! I don't think that was actually a thing in the comics! He looks huge! He also has a big fuck-off huge gun, which if I'm not wrong, looking at it, is bigger than Batman. And over half the size of the Joker. For God's sake, what is the recoil of that weapon? Yes, don't think I'm not looking too much into this. I am. It also fires extremely quickly across the screen and hits like a truck, taking off numerous points of damage when you're only limited to 8. Apart from that, he can also summon lightning. Yes, he's gained the powers of Thor somehow and summons lightning across the screen, leaving you with very few places where it's actually safe to stand. And if you think you're going to try and have distance because of just jumping over the bullets, well no, he's going to run over to you and then just make it all fun with his lightning. The best tip for the fight is to try and get him to come over, and then once he gets close enough, you're in a bit of a safe zone with that lightning, and then you can crouch down and punch him in the dick. Literally, if you crouch and punch, you are literally dick-shotting him the whole way through. Is it hilarious? Yes. Does he have a cock of steel? Clearly, because you can give him so many punches, and he still takes it, and it's not a problem. But bloody hell, did this take a while for me to practice. The beating the Joker, not the dick stuff. That's a separate video altogether. At number 8, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. the technodrome. Now, this is a situational boss, and I'll kind of explain what I mean when we get there. The whole point is that you need to hit the thing's eye at the top. That's how you destroy the boss. But it's not going to be that easy because it has quite a few defenses. On either side of the technodrome are these two massive fork-like things which shoot out electricity. I can't imagine if that actually even happened in the original cartoon series. Someone's going to have to comment and tell me if that was even a thing. It constantly also spits out foot soldiers, which is just lovely, because everyone likes enemies on a constant basis. But these foot soldiers will constantly fire projectiles at you, so just great. Or they'll try and jump on to give you a cuddle, or come underneath you to give you a little surprise in your tootsie toes, so you've got to try and hit them from all sorts of directions. Those little turrets are going to be an absolute pain in the arse. What make it also fun? Well, the technodrome is constantly going left and right, and you're working on the tracks, so whilst you're standing on those tracks, you're going to be constantly moving. It's literally like, screw you, we absolutely hate you. The main plan of attack here is, again, situational. Let's say you haven't got Donatello, because why would you want to use Donatello? He is the best turtle in this game, but I hate Donatello, I can't stand him. If you have Donatello, this boss is relatively easy, because his bow staff is so ridiculously long, I'm talking about his actual weapon and nothing else, he can hit the eye from anywhere, and it's not really a problem. But if you haven't got Donatello, this is when the game becomes a lot more difficult. Essentially, you need to get rid of the turrets first in the middle, get rid of them, and then you need to go for the hatch where the foot soldiers are being spat out. And once you've done that, you're pretty much on easy streak, because it can really only hurt you with electricity forks, and they're not going to hurt you anymore because, well, unless you're stupid and you want to go to the left or right of the technodrome, but if you just stay in the middle, you're completely fine. But it's getting to that point is a pain in the arse. As I said, if you have Donatello, the worst turtle of all, you'll probably do this with no problem, just because it's easy street with Donatello. I can't believe I'm saying that, but it's the case. But have Raphael or Michelangelo, it's just not any fun. Leonardo can do it somewhat because his sword, I'm talking about his metal sword, nothing else, is somewhat competent to Donatello's bow, but it's just not as long. But have Michelangelo and Raphael, you're just not in for a good time. Also, the thing's not to scale. Technodrome looks tiny. How the hell do you have a whole level in there later? Shut up, I know it's meant to be to scale. Just leave me alone. Let me have some peace. Music's dope, though. At number 7, it's Final Fantasy 1 and Warmech. Is this a final boss? Is this a boss? I don't think it's a final boss. It's not. It's an encounter. But it's so powerful it's considered a super boss in the Final Fantasy community. Now, you might not even have fought this thing. It's not mandatory. It's bare enough secret. See, in the original game, not even before the final dungeon, it's the penultimate one, before you go fight Tiamat, I think it's Tiamat, you have a 3 in 64 chance of even finding this thing. So you could walk along this big corridor and it never appears. But if you do, you're pretty much screwed, because it's near enough as powerful as Chaos, the final boss, and you are nowhere near ready for Chaos at this point. Now, why is it so powerful? Well, it has a 25% chance of hitting you with Nuke, one of the most powerful spells in the game, and essentially rivaling Chaos. It basically would just absolutely smash you, and if it just keeps hitting you with Nuke, good luck. You can't win this fight. Well, you could, but you've got to be severely overleveled, and as I said, at the time, you're not going to be that. Beating it doesn't give you anything special, just apart from a huge amount of experience and huge amount of money, but I can imagine it's a huge thing you can gloat with your friends. The thing is with this fight, you can probably go to the schoolyard back as a kid and go, well, I never even knew this fight existed. I never knew this fight existed. You're lying, because again, the chances are there it might not even appear. To be honest, I've never even seen this thing, because I know when I get to that stage, I'm not at the right level required to fight it. Because I can't be arsed grinding to get to the stage where I can beat Chaos in one, so I can actually take this thing on. So it's kind of a boss which I know is in there, and I've never fought. So you can all shout at me at the comments, that's fine. But it's a time thing more than anything. If you're at the right level, yeah, you can fight this thing. But if you're not, and you've been playing the game normally, unlucky. At number 6, we're talking Mega Man and the Yellow Devil. Now, when I started playing the original Mega Man game, I had no idea about the Yellow Devil. The only thing I thought was to be scared of was the original box art, the European and American release, not actually this boss. So when I actually came to it, I thought, what the absolute Fooky Duke is this? And I got absolutely annihilated. For those who don't know what it is, it's a big yellow thing, and it throws itself 19 parts across the screen, rebuilds itself, opens an eye, and then closes its eye and redoes it all again. You basically have to wait till that eye opens, hit it with a thunder beam in a very, very small window, and then it shuts it and then starts throwing its DNA around. And I'll make this very clear, I do not like big men or things throwing their DNA at me, and take that as you wish. You've only got a split second to hit that eye. I can make this even more horrific, but I'm not going to. And it's an absolute battle of patience. It's difficult, it's challenging. I did manage to do it with a lot of practice. Again, timing. I didn't use save states, but I did manage to do this. And then afterwards, I found out when I went to the internet, there's a way of cheesing it. And the way you cheese it is simply fire the thunder beam and then start mashing the pause button or the select button as quick as you can. And every time it unpauses, it basically tricks the game to redoing the damage, like re-registering it all over again. So you can essentially do it in one hit. And I was like, well, that's just lovely. You Janemba-esque bitch. I would have loved to do that, but I didn't. I had to sit there and keep basically practicing over and over and over again. So I did the save state from the start of the battle, okay? That's not cheating in my opinion. Well, in my opinion, it's not. Other people are going to come at me and say, oh yeah, it is cheating. No, I don't care. But it was a battle and I was very happy that I won it. It was one of them, I was like, yes, I've done it. I like fighting difficult bosses. But then when I found out the trick, I went, well, that would have been a lot easier to do. And I probably would have done it for time purposes, but you live and you learn. And before we get into number 5, I just want to tell you about my auntie has written a book. It's called The Haunting of the Little Maggie Smith, the Girl Who Stopped the Dark. It tells the tale of the Smith family who, whilst entering a century-old house, have unknowingly stepped into the shadow of a haunting past. Within these walls is a potent and sinister entity thriving on the purity within the hearts of its unsuspecting inhabitants. However, there is a flicker of hope in the form of a mysterious little girl called Maggie Smith. Unbeknownst to Maggie, she has an extraordinary power, as she's able to keep the monstrous entity at bay, but then one day she vanishes without a trace. And as the police arrive, it becomes clear that Maggie's disappearance is no ordinary case, and the truth is darker and deadlier than anything they've ever faced. Now, if you're into haunting and horror books, this is for you. The Haunting of Little Maggie Smith, the Girl Who Stopped the Dark, written by my auntie Lynette Lindsay, is available from wherever you get your books from, and if you've got Kindle Unlimited, it's free. But please go check it out, it is her first book, and if you're into haunting stories and spooky tales, this is for you. Right, let's keep it coming. At number 5, we're going to Castlevania and Death. Now, I've gone to fight death many times. I have played many Castlevania games for the podcast because I often get in like a habit. I'm like, oh, need to play another one, and then I end up playing 6 of them. That's just how it works out. That's why we've got so many of them backlogged. But the first game, I didn't find too bad. I thought with a lot of patience, it's not too bad. And until I found out that the stopwatch was the most broken item in the game, and until I eventually found out that the Holy Water is the most broken item in the game, Death was an absolute ball acher of a boss. So what happens is, the bastard swoops in from often the right, and then starts throwing sickles, scythes, I think the sickles at you, up to 4 of them. It starts off with 3, but then it begins as 4. Now, to have them bouncing across the screen would be lovely, and okay, we can try and work with that while you're trying to dodge him swooping round. The problem was that these 4 sickles are homing, so they are coming after you. And the thing is, you can think, oh, I'll just leave him alone, I'll just go after Death. No. That's not the way to do this, boss. You need to keep moving, and you need to keep going after those sickles. It's the only way that you're going to do it. And if you go in with a powered-up vampire killer, well, that helps dramatically with your range of damage. But for God's sake, you need to start hitting those sickles. Once the sickles are on the screen, you've let them get up to 4, and you don't deal with them, you are not having a good time. It isn't fun, and Death's going to be sitting there laughing at you. He's going to have the time of his life. He's not like pissing at you, but he's going to be pissing himself laughing. We should clarify with these things. But either way, he's going to be having the best time of his life while you're dodging and dying and just basically crying yourself to sleep. Eventually, though, I found out that you can just use the holy water. And when you've got the holy water, you can put him in stun lock like the other bosses. And you're like, oh, okay. He's very easy once you get him into stun lock, and then you can go, haha, who's laughing now, bitch? And the thing is, the bad thing about this boss is that you can actually kill him, finish him off, and then you're going to go for the red orb. However, no, his sickles are still on the screen. So if you've got a sliver of health, and you think, yeah, he's dead, and then a sickle suddenly hits you, and after the fact, you're like, oh, for fuck's sake, and you've got to do it all over again. It's there, you can't help it, you've just got to get over these things. But yeah, you need to run to that red orb as soon as you can, or just go after the sickles, or he's going to kill you in the aftermath. So Death does always come back, and he'll be laughing at you from afar. At number 4, we're talking The Legend of Zelda 2, Adventure of Link, Dark Link, or Shadow Link, however you want to call him. You think you're about to fight the final boss in Ganon, but lo and behold, this little bastard comes from behind you, from your shadow, and wants to fight you, and Link is the final boss. And let's be honest, Shadow Link can kick your ass. He's better than you in everything. He's faster than you, more agile than you, stronger than you. He is just a better version than you. And this fight is an absolute nightmare, because really it comes out of nowhere, and it's just so bloody difficult. You feel like you're playing Happy Slap, but he is Happy Slapping you to absolute death. Now, there is a way to cheese this in the European and American versions, where you can just sit in the corner and kind of the AI messes up. However, if you've got the original hardware, the Japanese Famicom, good luck, because that glitch is not in there. This is a battle which will send you to your grave. This is a battle of attrition. This is a battle where you've got to overcome yourself. Can you do it? Yeah, I used the glitch. Sorry, everyone. At number 3, we're talking Castlevania 3, Dracula. Now, the original Dracula fight in Castlevania I actually think is quite manageable once you know the pattern. However, come Castlevania 3, he's really upped his game. This battle takes place in 3 stages, and whilst the first one isn't too bad, where he's just literally sending fire from the ground, because apparently that's a thing you could do when you're, the almighty demon Dracula, when it comes to the final 2 stages, yeah, it's a bit of a pain in the arse. First of all, his second stage, he is just spewing, lava, sick thing at you, floating from the screen, and it's nearly impossible to try and get a hit in, and you're just constantly running, hoping not to get spewed on. And in the final stage, he becomes this demonic statue thing, and whilst there are 2 floating level platforms for you to jump on and try and hit him, he is trying to hit you with this laser beam. Now, it's a pain in the arse because you're constantly moving in the fight. However, I did find out this fight does become significantly easier if you've got the axe. I didn't have the axe, so lo and behold, I'm trying to do this with a whip, and it is very challenging, especially the 3rd stage, because you are constantly on the move. You've got to keep going, because Dracula's not going to give you any little breathing space, because it's goddamn Dracula, and he hates the Belmont, and he wants to rip out your heart. But either way, it was a good, fun boss, which I didn't think was cheap, but I enjoyed doing. And the runner-up at number 2 is Ninja Gaiden and Jacko. Now, Jacko is the 3-stage final boss, and I'm not even asked about the 1st and 3rd stage, they're particularly manageable. It's the 2nd stage was an absolute pain in the arse, because he is literally going from left to right whilst firing these 2 little balls at you. The problem is that they're homing balls, and if you get the timing of your jump wrong, you are absolutely screwed, because the arc is so unforgiving of these balls, that sounds horrific, you have got no chance. So you are jumping around on these 3 little platforms on your walls to try and get a hit in, whilst he is moving at the speed of light, firing balls at the screen at you, and you have absolutely no chance. And I cannot tell you the amount of times I did this when I had to save state from that exact start of that boss. Because if you don't know, if you think, oh yeah, I'll just lose my lives and try again. No, you don't try again. You go all the way to 6-1. And getting to the final boss in itself is a challenge. So having to do this all again from 6-1 all the way to 6-4 is an absolute monstrosity, and is one of the most evil things I've ever seen a developer do. The boss itself is incredibly difficult, to get there is incredibly difficult, and is so unbloody forgiving. It really is the definition of get good. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know about this, so when I did fight this boss and died, I went back to 6-1, and I wanted to cry, because it was already so much of a challenge to get there. However, thankfully, I managed to get there quite quickly because I grinded so much on 6-1, 6-2, 6-3. God's sake, this game is incredibly good but incredibly hard. So yes, I had to save state to win, and I'm not proud of it, but I'm not exactly shameful either, because this boss is unforgiving, and having to watch cutscenes every time, screw it! That final stage was absolutely doable, it was great, it was just the 2nd stage, you can go eat a big dick. At number 1, it's Mike Tyson from Punch-Out! What else can you say about it? It's gotta be the Mike Tyson. I think everybody else had this, that's why I had it as a thumbnail, it had to be him. Like, the thing is, it's an easy pick, because with other bosses, like, let's look at, you had Death, you got Shadow Link, you even got the Yellow Devil, there's some little trick. There's some little trick that you'll be able to try and exploit the game. Here, you can't cheese this. There's no way of doing it. You need, like, perfect reactions to do this. You need to lock yourself in, close your sphincter, get the pattern set in your head, and go. But your reactions need to be perfect, like 0.1 of a second. You need to be Ultra Instinct or Shaggy to be able to do this. There's no other way. But I think the big thing with this boss is, oh yes, the reactions are so, incredibly tight, is the fact it's Mike Tyson himself. I only heard about the allure of this boss as I was growing up, and I didn't get to play it back then because I was onto the Super Nintendo Mega Drive era, and no one I knew actually had Punch-Out! And the thing is that you hear about how, yeah, this is the most difficult boss of all time, this is one of the hardest bosses ever, and I was like, I've just never played it. So when I finally did get to fight Mike Tyson for the first time, granted it wasn't on initial hardware, I mean it should be on original hardware, because that's probably the best way to play it was terrifying. I was like, the pressure's on. I was like, it's goddamn Mike Tyson. And yeah, he beat me a lot, and I can't do it. I'm open to say I can't do it. I'm not going to save state it, because what's the point in that? There's just no, I could, every punch I get in a save state it. No, that's not the way to do it, and I'd feel like I really have cheated. But I can't do it. Like, absolutely not. I've tried to learn all patterns, he's too good. He's far too good. And he's so good, if I ever saw Mike Tyson in real life, I would call him a bitch, but I would do so from about 100 meters away. Even though I could probably outrun him, because he is like in his 60s, I'd constantly be looking over my shoulder for the rest of my life, knowing he's probably going to kill me. So yeah, if I ever meet Mike Tyson, you're my bitch, or you're my bitch. But yeah, I just can't do it. It's just impossible. And it could be, I don't know, this is an argument for another day, Mike Tyson could be possibly the hardest boss of all time. Now that's for other people to argue on here whether that's the case, and certainly that is for a topic that we can have on this channel in the future, but he's got to be up there, if not the hardest boss ever. He definitely is on the NES, there's no question, and I will not have anyone else say it's not. Well, they can put whatever they want on here, but in my opinion, he is numero uno, and I'm never going to mess with the guy. And that is it, my top 10 hardest bosses on the NES. Let me know what you think of my list. Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think there's ones I've missed? As I said, there's probably plenty of games I haven't mentioned, so you need to put them in the comments below, and we can always do this again in the future. As I said at the beginning, please like and subscribe, it helps the channel grow, and I'll see you all in a few days for another video. My name's been Danny, follow your dreams.